Let's see. I agree, being a golem would be handy.
Imagine the benefits. No need to eat or sleep or perform other functions. Walk underwater, crush the heads of every opponent. The possibilities are limitless. Barring the occasional 30 years or so of paralysis, there's little to compare.
Yeah,
Now
yeah.
stop talking so much. The wagging of its moist little tongue is distracting.
Excuse me. Okay, so Shale +8. Excellent.
I've watched a lot of humans in my time. It should be aware that I've decided that it is not much like any of them.
I'm not a human. That's super. Thanks, Shale.
Surely it must come from some superior lineage, yes? Some breed of flesh creature that has decided to elevate its genetic stock above its natural shortcomings?
Very likely. I am Dalish after all.
Then that must be it. The humans have always spoken about elves being inferior, but obviously this is their own stupidity talking. I would appreciate if it didn't spread around that I said anything. Humans might start to get the wrong idea. They might start
Oh,
thinking their race is not completely hopeless.
wonderful. And we wouldn't want that.
Indeed. Can it imagine the horror? Oh. Now, let us crush something into a fine paste before it starts to think I've gone all soft. Perish the thought.
Lovely. Shale approved +6.
It speaks.
I have some questions.
It doesn't have better things to do.
Not really. Uh, how did you end up in Hanley? Do you remember?
Oh, yes. That I remember quite well. My former master, the Mage Wilhelm, he brought me. As I recall, he had acquired some position with whatever lord ruled the land. I, being little more than a glorified possession at the time, was brought along. Oh, how he enjoyed impressing the villagers with me. Gollum snarl at that villager there, be fearsome. And of course, I would have to do it.
Uh, let's see. Do you remember anything before Hanley?
I traveled with the mage. He did a lot of traveling, I remember that. But where we went, it is rather fuzzy. I remember great battles, fighting many humans long ago. They were all very soft and squishy. And before that, No, there are only images. I was somewhere dark.
Uh, just how old are you exactly?
I have no idea. Wilhelm used to brag that the dwarves stopped making golems centuries ago. I do not age as you soft creatures do. Sadly, my memory is no better. Plus, I get bored and stop paying attention.
But why were you out in front of the tower?
That is where Wilhelm kept me. He wanted me out in the open where I could be frightening like a scarecrow. I was supposed to watch for thieves. Pah! Plus, his wife didn't want me indoors. She said there wasn't room for me. Hag.
His wife?
I was once larger, 10 feet tall. Then the loathsome hag complained that I couldn't fit through the doors. So the mage had me shrunk down, shrunk down! Can it believe it? And she still wanted me out.
How does one shrink a golem?
With a chisel. And a lot of nerve.
I would have thought you'd enjoy scaring humans.
I'd have happily stomped them all into paste. And then ripped down their little houses and stomped on them, too. In fact, after 30 years of watching them, I'd do it twice. What I didn't like was being ordered to do it. Dangled in front of those frightened morons like some scary thing. Once I was a statue, it took those villagers years before they'd even approach me. The first one to actually work up the nerve to touch me urinated himself. Ugh.
Lovely. You didn't like this Wilhelm, I take it.
He did love using that control rod. Fondled it so much his wife actually threatened to throw it in the lake. Ha! I would have liked to have seen that. Which reminds me, where did it find the rod? Did it pay a great deal for it?
Oh yes, a fortune in fact.
Good. Clearly, I am worth it.
Interesting. I'm done asking about that.
Good. I was just about done talking about it. It
Lovely.
does like to have a good chat now and again, doesn't it?
Shale approves. Okay, well,
It speaks.
I have some
It
questions.
doesn't have better things to do.
No, not right now. Uh, you watch that village day and night for no, are those crystals in your skin?
I like to think of them as accessories.
Do all golems have them? They must, but what do they do? Yeah, there
I
we go.
suspect that it is an art that was practiced when golems were more, commonplace. My former master collected whatever lore he could find on the subject. He searched far and wide to collect what crystals he could and then added them. It is not an unpleasant sensation.
Uh, it's a dwarven thing then.
So I would assume. My former master enjoyed poking around the ruins in the deep roads after all, and bartering with others who did. As I understand it, the crystals allow me to alter the flow of magic around me. Wilhelm had hoped to turn me into a battery of mana, something he could tap at will.
Did he succeed?
Not really. Although now that I think of it, these attempts may be what caused my disruption. Some of the crystals increase the presence of mana, some absorb or reflect spells. There are various kinds. All I can promise is that should it ever find one of these crystals, I can likely tell it the function and what it would do if added to me.
Would you... That sounds promising. Where would I find them?
Wilhelm said they came from the deep roads. So, anywhere such things end up, I suppose. That answers its question, I assume? Unless it has more.
Uh, you watch that village day and night for years?
I do not sleep, so yes. And I thank it for reminding me. Try to imagine, if it will, what it would be like to be surrounded by nothing but boring peasants, all oblivious to it.
Yes, that would be rather horrid.
And then there were the birds. A whole village full of pigeons and ravens and sparrows all perching on
Pigeons.
me day in and day out.
Patching. Sounds a little messy.
Those foolish villagers would spread birdseed near me, drawing the birds, because they thought having birds perch on me was quaint. Quaint! If there hadn't been the occasional kind soul to scour me clean, I don't care to discuss this anymore.
Shale approves. So where is her liking of me at? Okay, she's getting up there. And then also the other point to doing this, I know it seems, other than getting some backstory, we do get individual quests for each one of these guys as we get them to the point where they really, really like us. So it is very important, that we do those.
It speaks.
I have some
It
questions.
doesn't have better things to do.
Uh, you don't seem to like humans much.
That is true. I do not. I'm not interested in getting into a discussion on the subject, however. Ask another time. It
Lovely.
is done asking overly obvious questions.
All right. Well,
It speaks.
so that's.
It doesn't have better things to do.
I'm told you killed your former master.
Oh, how interesting. Certainly I remember having a master. My memories of what happened to him are vague.
Uh, Vague, but not non-existent.
Clever and true. Oh, very well. Let me see what I can recall. My former master enjoyed experimenting upon me. I remember that much. There was tinkering with spells, and then the crystals. He was very eager to alter my function, I think.
Uh, Alter you? Why? You're fine as you are.
Flattery, and obvious flattery, too. I feel warm and fuzzy inside. He possessed my control rod, and back then, it would have prevented me from doing anything he did not command me to, no matter how I might have wished to. So what happened? I am unsure. He was experimenting, and then nothing.
Are you sure? Nothing at all?
There was pain. I do not feel it as soft creatures do, so the memory is an odd one. And then he was gone. I was standing where I was, in the village, and I could no longer move. The villagers came, poked and prodded me in fear, and then realized they could neither move me nor destroy me, so they simply left me. And in time I forgot I hadn't stood there all along.
That must have been terrible. I'm sorry.
In fact, at first I found it more of a relief. For so many years I'd had to leap to that little toadstool's every command. Get this, pick up that, put it down, pick it up again. The gall! At first I'd hoped he'd simply decided to leave me there paralyzed, an acceptable trade-off. After years passed, I simply stopped caring.
Maybe that's something to do with your crystals.
Possibly. Except that he was not experimenting with the crystals at the time, I think. But my memory is not good. It may be correct. Whatever the mage did seemed to render the control rod useless, for which I should be thankful, yes? And provided it doesn't decide to copy his experiments, not that I would allow it, it is nothing to fear from me.
No, cool.
Much.
Sounds good to me.
The things that it fights, and it fights things often, that is a different story. Let us get back to the walking and the fighting. My stone is beginning to itch again.
Lovely. Shale approves +8.
It speaks.
I have some questions.
It doesn't have better things to do.
How did Wilhelm come to acquire you?
That part I know, as Wilhelm often bragged about it to whomever was willing to listen to him. He claimed to have found me in the deep roads. I was in the ruins of a Tig, he said, deactivated, with my control rod not far away.
So if he hadn't found you...
I wouldn't have had to put up with the twit, and I would be none the wiser. I don't think I was aware while I was there. Not like in the village. Or perhaps I was. Perhaps that was the dark place, and I simply couldn't see anything. How long could even I sit in the darkness and stare out at nothing, never sleeping? Oh, I do not wish to think of that.
Do you know where in the deep roads this was?
No. That secretive bastard refused to tell me. I would ask and ask, but no. He used to say that one day, if I were compliant and didn't talk back at his wife, he would take me there and I could look around myself. Rotten, lying bastard. If I had his head in my hands now, I would squeeze it like a giant lemon. Squish.
What was Wilhelm doing in the deep roads?
It was a hobby of his, scavenging. One of the reasons he traveled so much is that he was looking for entrances into the deep roads, old places the dwarves had long forgotten. And then he would sneak down and search for magical treasure, before anyone was the wiser.
You don't know why you were there?
I think I remember a battle. It was long before, and then there was darkness. Bah, in short, no, I do not remember why I was there. It makes no difference.
Let's move on.
On then.
Likes us quite a bit now, which is excellent.
It speaks.
Let me see, is there any other dialogue
It
options?
doesn't have better things to do.
Let's move on. Nope.
On then.
Alright, so a couple more gifts and we'll, we'll have Shale up there ready to give us a quest. So, we are going to venture forth. Where do I want to start?
Yes.
I think
Yes.
we're going to start in
Indeed.
Orzammar. We're going to take our usual group. I think we're going to start in Orzammar. So we're going to head to the Frostback Mountains. And I'm starting in Orzammar mostly because I feel like it. And this might be a little out of order. Typically I start at the Lake Calenhad Castle, but Oghren who you'll meet soon here might be pretty useful. Oh, some bounty hunters.
Time award.
Alright. Oh my god, these guys are strong.